Hi, and thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Sophisticated Sunday. I'm going to be your reader today, Negzo, and this is my co-host,
Oshun Funke. I am an Iyanifa, and I'm not to be fucked with.
Okay, so today in this week's episode, we're going to be talking to you all about reincarnation, past lives, and how it is that you all can figure out more about your past life and the services that we offer to help you all figure out things about your past lives. So the first question that I wanted to present for the both of us to answer is, in your own words, how would you define reincarnation?
Well, I think that reincarnation is really the recycling of energy, but specifically life force. We know that energy cannot be created or destroyed, it only changes form. And so that is the most basic and beautiful definition of reincarnation. We just change form over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For me, it's a process of soul recycling that you're going to constantly go through these soul recycling processes so that you can grow. When I think about reincarnation, it made me think about the very hungry caterpillar, where it starts out as an egg caterpillar. It goes into its chrysalis, becomes a butterfly, then it goes and lays its eggs again. Mm-hmm. So I had to think of reincarnation as a form of spiritual reproduction, where the spirit wants to reproduce itself again.
Right.
But in a different form to learn similar lessons or lessons that are sympathetic to the life that was lived,
previously. Yeah.
And so
I would agree with that.
And that led me to thinking about this question. Can African Americans, do when you think about PTSD, is there a type of PTSD that African Americans could experience, or they are experiencing because they reincarnated from a past life where they've experienced some trauma?
I can't answer that definitively because there's a lot of things that go into that. Some of what we might experience or diagnose as PTSD could also be some generational stuff, that we're experiencing, generational curses or generational residues, of trauma. So I think the answer is yes, but whether it is in fact PTSD of the soul, I don't know, because I think it's probably a combination of, one's own individual soul's experience and then, the larger experience of one's bloodline and the ancestors who work with us and for us from the other side and how they respond to things as well.
And and that will lead me to at least thinking that one purpose behind us reincarnating as African American people is that we are reincarnating to heal collective or familial generational curses, and that is going to help our souls to elevate on the other side, in successfully doing so. So when you think about the times that you've read for people about their past lives, have you ever seen them experiencing problems in their present day life that were linked to issues in their past life?
What I see most often are generational things. I don't even think that most people are connected to their soul enough to even be able to identify and deal with and handle those things as they come up. I think what we see more often and what I have seen most often are one's ancestors crying out, asking for things to be remedied, asking for sustenance and assistance in paying forward, blessings and healing for past things. That's what I see most often. I think that in order for us to tap into our soul and to begin to work through those injuries and traumas and that sort of thing, it requires so much work that the average person is not willing to do, honestly. Yeah. And especially because we don't have the infrastructure in place in our communities. We don't have shaman. We don't have, people don't even see priests and priestesses like they should, you know, to check in on their soul or to put them in, to connect the body and the soul and the mind. It's just a disconnect, you know. And so people aren't doing the work that would even allow them to tap into those experiences, you know.
Yeah. So, in my experiences of reading for people in their past lives, they typically, like, the most common past life pattern that I see is that someone has a karmic relationship with a lover, or they have a karmic relationship with a parent where these events have conflict may have been replaying
over and over again.
Right.
Yeah.
Because both souls are trying to compete with each other still. And the best way to heal that karma is for, somebody has to stop, one person has to stop fighting and stop being distracted by the fighting and just be on their path so that they can focus on the greater goal, which is their soul's evolution.
Yeah.
I have typically found that people, I guess you could say, are magnetizing themselves to certain incarnated traumatic stress disorders because they, their soul has, this desire to finish, has this desire to finish unfinished business. And when you say that we're not, that us lacking, community priestesses contributes to people contributes to communities of people going through these incarnated traumatic stress disorders. Because what's supposed to happen is the shaman or the priest is supposed to tell the parents how to rear the child so that they can either avoid or mitigate those
predispositions.
Right. And so, and in addition to that, you're supposed to have the priest there to train the person up so that their disposition is one that they are not trying to magnetize those sorts of experiences to them.
Yeah.
So, I guess you can say, that's been my experience in one regard. But if I had to think about it in terms of people's as life purpose going unfinished, there have been times where I said, it according to a past lifetime, that I see within this particular time period, you may have died an untimely death. I know that one thing that they told me in my first Vodun consultation was this is in your past life you were taught by the ancient Egyptians as a priest, like you were a young man training to be a priest, and you were taught by the ancient Egyptians how to be a teacher, how to teach, how to the law of pedagogy was what I was being taught. And so they were saying that seed, I guess you could call it, what I call it, a destiny seed, was planted, and from that seed, every lifetime that I'm going to experience is going to involve some form of teaching. People. Right.
That's very interesting because, and so your current life station mirrors that, that calling on your soul. That's interesting because I've had several, past life regressions or past life remembrances and experiences, some of them ritualized and some of them not. But I had one scenario where I saw myself, I relived an experience where I was almost exactly who I am now, just in an ancient time. I actually owned or was working in a, I have to call it a spa for lack of a better word.
So you're a marketplace woman.
I was a marketplace woman. I was offering services of transformation and self-care and beauty. And we were in a big, gorgeous Arabian tent. or African actually,
Mm-hmm.
because
Okay.
all the people, we were African, but it was like an Arabian style tent with animal skins and rugs on the floor, and the walls of the tent were animal skin, and it was massive. It was really big, and there were fires going in different places, and pots of boiling liquids, and women being bathed and pampered and primped, and I was kind of running around directing the whole scenario, and I was like, wow, that's like what I do now, just in a different time and space. And so I agree that you are who you are, right? And it doesn't really matter what shape your soul takes. I might be a woman in America today, but evidently I was the same person or had the same soul mission as
Right.
a woman, in the Sahara Desert eons ago. And so I think too that would explain why a lot of people have emotional and spiritual issues, because they actually deny or ignore who they actually are.
Right.
None of us were born to spend 8 to 12 hours in a cubicle. That's just no one's life purpose. I don't care what you have to tell yourself to make it bearable for you to get up and do that bullshit day after day and wait on your 1 hour lunch and pray for your 2 weeks vacation and count the years until your retirement. That is not your fucking purpose.
It's not.
And so you deserve to be miserable
You do.
if that's what if you're miserable in that type of situation. None
And
of
that's
us
what you settle
were
for.
created to work in a call center. Whose fucking mission is that? What you are
The
doing,
people at Publix that made your sandwich.
that's no one's mission. That's no one's sole purpose. And so what you're doing, if you are working in a call center and giving 40 plus hours of yourself per week to this corporate machine, you're actually making someone else's dreams come true. You're actually contributing your life to the fulfillment of another person or family's purpose. So just think about that.
Yeah. So when I think of, I mean, I think that's a really good point, because when I think about like Black solidarity, you know, here's just this is a stream of consciousness, but I think that people need to look at their actual ancestral bloodlines to figure out what their past lives were. In my family, there are ministers, there are preachers, there are people that have worked in the church. So it gave me some indication or some clue that part of what I would do, even though at the heart of everything is artistic and it is scientific, I know that there's a pastoral or ministerial
Ministry, yeah.
right. There's a ministry that I have to build and I
Yeah.
have to get out. And when I have to think about what it is that I want to commit my life to, where it is that I want to make my money in terms of Black solidarity, I would love, I think I'd be fine working at, in a perfect world, maybe I'd be fine working at a Black owned call center, working, where I'm making, a Black dollar. No, I wouldn't.
I was going to say, but go ahead.
Yeah, the truth is, no, I wouldn't. But I hope that what I just said speaks to somebody that is okay with that. For those of us that are searching for a greater, I think it's important to get a past life reading, figure out what it was that you were doing in your past life, so that you can complete that mission in this lifetime, contribute something to your family, especially in terms of us
Building legacies.
building communities.
Building communities as well. Yes,
Having a profitable and enterprising financial infrastructure within the African American community as well, because you are aware, from every day what you're supposed to be getting up and doing, or even if you're not where you need to be, when you get that paycheck how you're supposed to be investing your money, or where you're supposed to be putting your money so they can circulate back into the community. I feel like discovering the secrets behind your reincarnation is maybe a missed component of, or it's not something that we often talk about as in terms of us successfully achieving,
And you know why? Christianity.
hold on, successfully achieving a black, having a profitable black economic infrastructure, but in our communities. But why were you saying Christianity is hindering that?
Christianity teaches people to be long suffering. Think about that line from Color Purple. Where Celie tells where Celie tells Sophia, this life be over soon. Heaven lasts always. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's what Christianity gave us. It taught us to just take the whip, turn the other cheek. This life will be over soon. And if you're good,
take all this pain.
Yeah, take all this pain, all this struggle. And if you're good enough to pass this, whatever the test is, we don't actually even know what the test is. You just got to be good. And then you'll go to heaven. Or if you just accept Jesus as your personal savior, Lord and Savior, then you'll go to heaven regardless of your deeds and regardless of how much you suffer or how much suffering of others you cause. That shit is ridiculous. And it doesn't even make mathematical sense. And we know that math is the language of the universe and the fabric which holds it together. So believing that is why so many people are content to be miserable. Content to be miserable. And content to never know who they are or what they came here to do. So guess what? You're destined to do it again. And you're destined to do it again with even less assistance than you have this time around, because this time around you're too busy clocking in and watching Real Housewives and eating fast food. You're not feeding your ancestors. You're not praying and meditating. You're not contributing anything to your afterlife bank account. So you're going to come here and be even more broke and even more destitute than you are this time around. Good luck with that shit.
Yeah. So I agree with that. And so I feel like one of the ways in which Christianity contributes to this problem that you're speaking about is that it stigmatizes, or they restrict their followers from discovering things about past lives, or saying that past lives are not real, that reincarnation is
or
not,
that it's necromancy,
or that reincarnation is that's an occultist theory and it's not true. That you have one life to live. And in a lot of Christian people living, thinking they have one life to live, sometimes, you're getting off of work and you do want to watch Real Housewives of Atlanta just to get that stress off of your mind because you have one life to live. They're not thinking about how they have the potential to use their time in a more productive way, something that's going to contribute, to their ancestral lineage, contribute to their help benefit their descendants financially, help benefit them spiritually, and especially educationally when you're thinking about trying to teach your children how to be more productive. When we think about white solidarity, for example, and how it is okay for white people to have use these covert tactics to support each other spiritually or financially. And when we want to use tactics that are covert or overt, they're going to be thwarted. Or the fact that Black Christians may not even, they're politically apathetic.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And because they're unaware of their past lives, because they're unaware that they're repeating the same mistakes in their past lives, they are contributing to the economic disenfranchisement of the African American community, because ignorance is truly not bliss in that regard.
It's true. It's very true. And even if people believed, you only have one life to live, or you only live once, YOLO, that's not true. But even if people were to believe that, then it would stand to reason that you would believe that you at least have a responsibility to those coming after you, to your children, to make sure that at least their life is going to be better than yours, but people aren't even doing that. People are not even doing that. We're just contributing to this machine, and denying not only our ancestors, but also our descendants. You know, we're just taking up space in the middle, in other words. Not helping anybody.
Yeah, and you know, there are two quotes that come to me that speak to what you just said. The first is by Audre Lorde, where it's, you know, the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house, and then the other one is just some African American proverb. If you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you're going, or something like that.
Yeah.
And so it's important to not just know, to see that we can't be, you know, as African American people, we can't be doubly ignorant. We can't be ignorant about our actual ancestral history,
right,
and ignorant about who we were in our past lives as well.
And ignorant about our situation in the physical, ignorant about finances, ignorant about politics, ignorant about group economics, ignorant about fucking personal power and responsibility and the ability that we all have to live the life of our choosing. The ability to get a fucking passport and get out of here. The ability to travel and see the world, see where you came from, and understand that there's so much more than what they put on VH1 and CNN. You get what I'm saying? We're ignorant on every level. Bankrupt and ignorant.
Okay, and let's say so here's a hypothetical. You have an ignorant client that comes to you, gets a reading, and then they find out they have a past life as a witch or a priestess. And okay, great, but if you don't have a solid financial education, you can't dominate in this economy as a witch or a priestess. You're going to be a Dollar Tree priestess, a Dollar Tree witch.
What is a Dollar Tree priestess?
A Dollar Tree priestess is someone that works in the West End down in Atlanta, and then they have paid $150 for some meleques. They paid $300 for an eba. Somebody wiped their head with some holy oil. They went through a 2-day process and may have slept on somebody's floor in their house in Snellville, and then all of a sudden they just think that they are ready to go out here. They got the sauce. They can command Ogu to just give them anything that they want, and they are stocking shelves down at Dollar Tree and educating other people that want to be woke and enlightened about how their ancestors have paved the way for other people to initiate, and how they are changing the world. I know that's a lot, but
that's a lot, but that's so true. That's such a real scenario, especially. Yeah, that's a real scenario. So one of the things...
Fuel my fire, take me higher, I'll be your liar too. Cause when we're here, there's nothing better than the skyline view.